Hi, everybody. It's Georgia Rose from Zenkuda Soul Space. Sorry we got off to a little bit of a late start tonight. Had some technical difficulties, which I've been having. I've missed you all. I haven't been on in a few weeks. So I guess if you don't put a lowercase where you're supposed to put I guess if you put a capital where you're supposed to put a lowercase, you miss your podcast for weeks and weeks. What else can I say? So welcome to the Soul Space. Um, I'm going to turn on my Facebook so that I can see who's out there tonight. Um, okay, great. So I'm on. So thank you everybody for tuning in. And tonight we're going to talk about loneliness because I know we're all stuck in our houses and wondering what to do with our time. Some of us have been really good about our time and some of us haven't. So we're going to talk a little bit about loneliness. I have to prop up my phone so that I can see the feed. Otherwise, I won't know who is out there and who isn't, so I can, respond to your comments. And it's going to take a few minutes for that to actually come on to our Facebook feed. So until then, you're just stuck with me chatting for a little bit. I hope you don't mind. So the reason why I picked tonight's subject of loneliness, and I always like to keep the soul space really positive, and hopefully tonight will be really positive because I have a lot of things to tell you guys about loneliness. Um, and we're all social distancing and we're not seeing our friends and family, and that can be a really hard thing to do. I've had some times in my own life where I've dealt with what I thought was loneliness over a long period of time, and I'm used to entertaining myself and keeping myself busy. I have a lot of hobbies and things, so I'm going to talk to you about that. And also, on another scale, I want to talk to you about, obviously, because we're in the soul space, a little bit about, our spirituality and how that can really help us with our loneliness. So first, I just have to find our feed so I can see who's out here, if anybody's tuned in since I'm 15 minutes late. Okay. So one of the reasons I chose today's topic wasn't just because we're obviously all by ourselves and some of us are stuck with family, and even though we're around people, some of us still feel lonely, is because, as I said, I've had dealings with this in my own life, and I kind of feel like I'm an expert on loneliness, and also I'm an expert on grief, even though I don't have a degree and I'm not a doctor. But if you guys want to weigh in the comments, because I don't have a live phone tonight, which I really miss on these broadcasts, but if you guys want to weigh in on some of the comments, I'd really like to see, if you guys are having any trouble or any particular thing with your own issues with loneliness and stuff like that. Because I think when we all talk about our own um, experiences, it really helps us. I'm just going to find us here. Okay. Sorry, I'm so distracted. Unfortunately, this is what happens in the new modern age of technology. We have to learn to work it all, right? And there's a lot of things I have to do because I don't have my beautiful engineer, Sally, tonight. So it's easy to get depressed when we're sitting home or, restricted from our normal activities and we really can't get a grip on how to fill our time. I see a lot of things on the feeds about we don't even know what day it is anymore, right? So I actually had that. Somebody asked me what day today was, and I thought it was Wednesday, and it was Thursday, right? The only reason why I know it's Thursday is because I'm doing my podcast. So hopefully I'm out there. Sally, if you could send me a text and let me know if I'm here or not, that'd be great because I don't see it myself on any feed and I don't see any comments. So I'm having trouble even just communicating with anybody that's out there. Um, yeah, I'm not finding this anywhere. All right, so I'm just going to do a podcast to a camera. I have no interaction, which is really hard for me, guys. So talking about loneliness, a lot of times we think we're lonely when we're not. And what happens is we have feelings, right? We have feelings in our physical body about being lonely. And sometimes that can happen even if we're in a crowd and we're surrounded by people. We can feel lonely. We also can feel intense feelings of loneliness for those of us who are undergoing this epidemic and the coronavirus sequestering by ourselves. And so one of the things that I would really reach out to all of you and ask is go into the actual emotions that you're feeling, the physical body emotions, what you're feeling, where you're feeling it. Because I think sometimes what happens is those sensations that we have are really from our ego. When we go into our feelings and we really face a fear or face a discomfort, we find a lot of truth underneath it. So what happens with loneliness, maybe we're sitting home or we're in a crowd and a feeling will come over us, maybe a sinking feeling in our stomach, or we'll get a very hollow feeling. Where is that coming from? That's our ego giving us a body sensation in order for us to respond, in order for us to feel badly, because that's how our ego controls us, through negative emotions oftentimes. So when you get those feelings of loneliness, really think about, where is this taking place in my body? What is the feeling that I feel? Because that's the first thing that's going to give you an indication of exactly what you need to overcome. I know for myself, when I feel lonely, I immediately feel it in my solar plexus. There's an area just under my heart space where I feel a great deal of hollowness. And that leads me to feel like I'm in danger. And I think that gets to a lot of the things about loneliness that are societal, or maybe from our family of origin. We're taught and we're conditioned to think that being alone is something we need to fear, that is threatening. And so maybe we're really not feeling loneliness. Maybe we're just feeling threatened by the fact that we are alone, or we're feeling fear at the thought of us being alone. So just think about that for a couple of minutes and let that sit while I look to see if I can find us somewhere on the internet. Because I don't know where the heck I am tonight. So you got to bear with me on that one. Um, so I think that's what happens, is we feel lonely and we're conditioned for this response whenever we are faced with being alone. A lot of times we find that when someone loses a spouse, they go into this deep depression and deep grief and deep fear, because we're taught that when you lose a spouse or you lose a partner, that's how you're supposed to feel. So go into those emotions, really observe them. I think this is where being fully present and mindfulness is so important for our own growth, because what happens is we are conditioned to feel things a certain way, and we go on to automatic pilot with that. And then we don't realize that maybe that's really not how we're feeling. So, yeah, I'm not seeing this anywhere. Give me a minute, because I'm going to see if I can share this video somewhere so that we actually have an audience tonight. Oh, I'm dealing with so much disappointment in my life right now. I have to tell you, I don't mind sharing that, because I'm sure many of you are also feeling the same way. Really tough situations, but if we're healthy, we probably should not feel badly. Okay, I found us. All right, good. Of loneliness. So I'm going to put this down. Please let there be someone out there. I got John Minetta here. Thank you. I got Sally here. I have Carrie Ann. Thank you, because I just realized something about myself, is that I can't do this alone. I got to have an audience. I mean, I feel like I want to help somebody, and if nobody's out there, I'm like, what am I doing? Yeah, see, Carrie Ann says she's doing some working from home and tests. I'm actually taking an online course, so I know that's a good way to set loneliness back. Okay, so I feel better now. I got some mojo because I got some people out there, so I'm good. See, this is a soul space. It's not just my soul, it's all about your soul. Oh, thank you for your help tonight, my Sally. She is the best engineer in life. Okay, so I'm going to get really started now. So what I was trying to say before, we're going to have to edit out like the whole first 5 minutes of this broadcast because I was so shook. All right, so loneliness, what it feels like, what it's about. I'm really almost an expert on this because loneliness almost completely shattered me in one time in my life for a very long period of time. So I realized what it was. I delved really deep into it and I overcame it, and I'm here to help all of you tonight. So chime in. I got my comments now. I can see everything. Share this video if you want. Start a watch party, whatever you have to do, because I really think this info is going to help people. So the first thing about loneliness is you want to go into your physical reality, all right? What is really happening around you? Are you really by yourself and that's why you feel lonely? Or are you feeling lonely in a crowded place and you felt lonely all your life? There's been something missing. There's been this overwhelming feeling of disconnect. Because that's what loneliness really is. Loneliness isn't just being alone. Loneliness is not connecting with anyone. So connection is really the antidote for loneliness. And I'm going to talk a lot about that in the next few minutes. So the ego gives us sensations. Just like, we're jealous or we're angry, there's a physical sensation that starts to come up. If you have a problem with anger in your life or attention, there's a pattern of repeated physical behavior that comes up because somewhere your ego along the course of your lifetime taught you that that particular emotion is something to be threatened by. As soon as you feel that threat, the body responds in a certain way and begins a pattern. And like I was just saying before, for me, the threat of loneliness comes in a wave of emotion starting in my solar plexus and into my heart. It almost feels like a heartbreak. Um, at one time, when I underwent very serious grief in my life, I actually ended up at a cardiologist's office and was diagnosed with something called broken heart syndrome. And it's a real thing because your emotions and tragedy in your life can actually cause your heart to break. So you'll look that up. There's a clinical name for it. So the body gives you physical sensations to put you in a threatened mode so that you react to that. And that's what comes from the ego. So if we go into our physical reality, it's one way to kind of disengage the ego because we're actually seeing reality, not the perceived threat. For instance, if you have a problem with loneliness, but you're surrounded by people, then your fear of being alone isn't real. So you can really dissolve that by going into your reality and staying fully present. I hope that makes sense to you. So a lot of times we're not really feeling lonely. We're feeling the fear that's causing the idea of loneliness. And that's why a lot of people feel lonely even in a crowd, or lonely when there's people around and they don't feel like they feel the loneliness because they don't feel connected. And that's the threat. We're taught in life that we're not supposed to be alone. We're taught in life that if you're not married by a certain age, there's something wrong with you. We're taught in life that no one is meant to be alone. Haven't you heard that in every single wedding ceremony there ever was? Well, unfortunately, there are some people who are alone through no fault of their own, and others choose to be alone. There's a big difference between loneliness and solitude, and I'm going to explain that as well in this broadcast. So your reality, if you are alone or not alone and you're feeling lonely, your reality may not be what's causing the sensations and the loneliness. It may be the perceived threat, the perceived fear. That's really where it comes from. So there's emotion and there's a reason behind the loneliness, behind what you're feeling underneath it. So when the ego feels threatened, it gives you all kinds of feelings and emotions. And then you feel more threatened. And that's when you get into the loop. That's the loop of loneliness. It's a loop of anger. It's a loop of jealousy. You know, the ego's telling you something, the body's responding, it must be true, and then you go into the loop. And that's how it controls us. So the best thing really is to remain fully present. Whenever you're feeling anxiety or the loneliness comes up, look at your reality. I'm healthy. I'm fine right now. I'm not being threatened. I can handle this loneliness. Maybe I miss a person or maybe I miss something, but there's really a deeper reason why I'm feeling this way, and it's my disconnection to myself. When we're connected to ourselves, we always have a friend, right? And when we're connected to spirit, when we're connected to God, that never leaves us. Our spouses, our partners, our family, our siblings, our children may leave us. But angels, God, the Creator never leaves us. So if you're lonely, connect with that. Mindfulness, meditation, breathing, connect with your breath. All of those things actually do help loneliness. So get away from the feedback loop of that perceived threat, ego telling you there's something wrong. I can't be here. I can't live alone. I can't, be without this person. This person was my life, or I miss my children so much. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Forget about that loop. You've got to go into reality. The reality is you just got through another day. We're fine. I'm going to make myself a really delicious meal and enjoy it by myself. Maybe a little quiet is good for me. Go into the reality that's really what is, and correct the interpretation of your feelings and bring them back into reality. Because that's one thing I will tell you, that many of us proclaim to be lonely, and it's really not loneliness. It's just a disconnection with your spirit. It's a disconnection with even when you are with others, you're not feeling them because you're not fully present. And when you're fully present, you're connected. So go back into the full presence of what your reality is now, what your day is like, what this moment is like. Go outside and see a beautiful sunrise or sunset, or the birds or the trees blossoming or the flowers coming up or a beautiful sky. And in that connection with creation, there's no way to be lonely. There's just no way to be lonely when you're connected to so much beauty. I know John takes walks every day, and that connects him. Nature is connecting. We are part of nature. Great way to really stop loneliness. So, by bringing your attention into your reality and bringing your attention to rest in the space as an observer, what am I really seeing here? What am I really feeling here? Why am I feeling this? You're not just lonely because you're not just lonely because you don't have people around you. You're lonely because there's a disconnect within you. And that's really what loneliness is. So make space for the loneliness. What you have to do is in those times when you're by yourself, when you're missing your family, when you are missing a certain person, or perhaps you've lost someone and they've passed over and you really miss them, or perhaps you've had a breakup and you really miss that person, make room for it. Because what a lot of people do, and it's really not a good thing, is they distract themselves all the time. If you distract yourself from loneliness, it will never, ever, ever go away. It will just get deeper and deeper for you. And it will make you really think that you are doing something to get rid of it, but you're not. So that's how the ego fools us. So just know that, and know that the distracting it is not the right way to go about it. A lot of times with loneliness, people will, because they're disconnected, they don't realize the disconnection in their reality, they're not present in it. A lot of times people will try and pick up something to make them feel connected, and it will turn out to be drinking or a drug or a habit or a hobby that they become obsessive about, or a bad relationship. People will stay in a bad relationship because they are not in the present reality of that has nothing to do with their loneliness. Having someone in the house with you has nothing to do with your loneliness. Loneliness really comes from a disconnection with spirit, with your own soul, with your own feelings. That's where the loneliness and disconnect comes from. So try to make space for that loneliness. And what happens is when we do that, it actually becomes, hi Gina, hi Marianne. When we make space for that loneliness, what happens is it turns into a more positive emotion. And it actually starts to turn into solitude. And there's a big difference between being lonely and solitude. Being lonely oftentimes is bad. It feels bad. It's, I hate to use the word bad, but it's a negative emotion. It doesn't feel good. Loneliness makes us feel uncomfortable. It brings things to the surface, a lot of times tears, desperation. Solitude does not do that. Solitude is good loneliness. Solitude is you're really glad to be with yourself. Even when I'm by myself, I still set my dinner table and I still sit down and I eat a meal and I put on beautiful music and I am grateful for my day. That's solitude. Solitude is you don't need someone to walk the beach with you. You do it yourself. And it takes a long time to turn loneliness into solitude. I remember when I was on that journey, I thought that I was getting over the loneliness because I could do things by myself. But what I realized was in the very beginning and for a little while, I would do things by myself with one eye on the door, waiting for someone to join me, waiting for someone to come in. Or I would take a walk on the beach by myself the whole time wishing someone was there with me. That's not solitude. Solitude is, I wish someone was here, but they're not, and I'm okay with that. Solitude is, someday I know someone will be here because I'm really good myself. And when you master that lesson, it's really interesting, but all of the relationships in your life become deeper, more meaningful. You're more grateful for people. And it's really a beautiful thing. But loneliness is a tough one. It's a tough lesson. But if you make space for it, look at it as an observer. Take the emotion out of it. Even if you only can do that for 5 minutes at a time. And just think about, what am I feeling? How can I grasp onto this? That kind of thing. And I didn't know going into this broadcast, one of the things when I decided to do my blog, which is actually, I just had the anniversary of my blog last week, April 6th. I started that in 2014, or in 2013, I'm sorry. One of the things when I decided to write and go on, then do videos later on, I started these videos about 2 years ago. It was a very difficult decision for me how much of myself I was going to expose. And I meditated on it a lot. And I thought about things a lot. And I actually went to certain mentors that I have and even spiritual guidance. And one of the things that kept coming up all the time, every reading, every meditation, every guru, every mentor, they said to me, you have to be vulnerable. Part of your soul lesson and your soul intensity in this lifetime, your soul mission, your soul purpose in this lifetime is to be a clarion. And you are meant to tell your story in a way that's extremely vulnerable. And at first, it was really tough. I would write a blog that was very personal and then I'd take it down. Or I would, in the beginning of my videos, I'd do a video and it would never see the light of day because it was a very big struggle for me how much to really share. So going into this video tonight, still all these years later, we're in 2020, I went and I pulled out an old journal of mine. This is probably from like, I want to say 2010, 2011. And going into the show, I wasn't sure if I was going to read this excerpt. And then I heard those words that I heard so many years ago when one of my teachers said, Georgia, you have to be vulnerable. You're meant to share. And so I'm going to read something that I wrote about loneliness. And the reason why I'm reading it is because I really think it will help a lot of people out there while we're going through this whole pandemic. And so many of us are isolated and secluded. And I think that it's a very quick little page that I wrote. And it was really about, for me, on the beginning of this journey, for me, finding my spirituality once again and finding my connections that I was not in loneliness that was eating me alive at the time. And I wrote this because it really, and I wanted to read it today because it really personifies what I'm trying to say about becoming the observer, going under the layer of loneliness to find where it really comes from. Because what I can tell you is that the loneliness you're feeling comes from a much deeper place than just not seeing a person. It comes from a much deeper place within us, from not, being able to do the things we love and miss those things. Those are all genuine emotions, and I'm certainly not trying to negate them, but there's something underneath that, and it's really the connection with Source. It's the connection with Spirit. It's the connection with yourself. And that was one of the first lessons that I ever learned in my spiritual journey, and it actually gave me the name of the first spiritual business that I do, that you'll still see some stuff out there when I do readings and things, strictly reading. My business was called Georgia Rose Connection, because at that time my lesson was the connections in our life that we have with ourselves, with others, and with Creator are the most important things in our life. Nothing else matters. Whether we have toilet paper or not, whether we're seeing the neighbor every day for bridge, or whether we are, having an argument with someone about something that is so infinitesimal, especially now when the most important thing for us is survival. All we have is our connections. That's all we have. When we take our final breath in this lifetime, we're not going to worry about if we got the 24 packet of toilet paper. We're not going to worry about if, Amazon Fresh didn't deliver our deodorant. No, we're going to ask ourselves, did I love? And who loved me? And that's the connection. And that connection is always there, no matter who is in your life. If you have that connection with yourself, in your own heart, and if you have that connection with the Creator or some kind of source energy that you believe in. For me, in the beginning, that was my angels. Angels came into my life in a really huge way when I was dealing with loneliness. And like I said, my loneliness was acute. This was things that happened on top of things that happened on top of things that happened, where people were taken out of my life through many different circumstances, death, etc. And my loneliness was very acute, and yet angels came in and gave me a connection that to this day is everything to me. So this piece was written beginning of 2011, I want to say, and it was written after I lost someone through a breakup that I had been with for a very long time in my life, the major relationship of my life. So I'm going to read this, and I'm going to try and not have emotion, because this is something that I've gone through my life and has passed, but you'll hear the emotion of it because when I wrote this, I was really learning. I was just learning how to deal with loneliness and I was learning, what connections are versus loneliness. So it's called Toothbrush. I put this so I can read it. Okay. So it's called Toothbrush and it says, when we were first lovers, we were so intimate that sharing a toothbrush was natural, and I didn't even think about it, and it didn't gross me out. I never did that before, and I've never done that since. When I did it with you, I didn't even think about it. I brushed my teeth this morning and noticed your toothbrush was gone. You must have just taken it. As long as it was there, I felt better, like it was a tangible thing of yours connecting us. I used it a couple of times after you left, and now it's gone. I felt lonely and panicked and scared, and I stared at the shelf in the medicine cabinet, and I began to completely melt down. And then I thought, courage, courage. Feel it. Feel this pain. Breathe it in and take it in. Take it into your body. Feel it and breathe it out. Heal yourself. Don't run. It's just a toothbrush. I miss your toothbrush next to mine. I miss sharing with you. It's so much more than just a toothbrush. But I realize now the absence of you is the absence and disconnect of so much more, much deeper things. And my pain and loneliness is comforted now in a deeper connection with my angels and God, and they will never leave me. And so that's the exercise, is that when you're feeling this discomfort, when you're feeling this loneliness, breathe it in, breathe through it. It's not going to kill you. I promise it's not going to kill you. And underneath that loneliness, underneath the uncomfortable feelings, underneath the heartache, is something deeper that will allow you to connect with something even more satisfying. And that's the spirituality of yourself. That's your own spirit. And you can connect to anything that you want. You can connect to the sky, the birds, the water, the trails when you go walking. But find that connection that sustains you. I source my life through a lot of my work. I source my life through the connection I feel through the camera, through my writing. When I write, it's like I feel it comes out of me and it's like throwing little balls of light on the page so others can see it and be illuminated like I was, and I thank God for all of that because I'm nothing without him. I'm not doing all this. He's doing it through me. So it's not just the loneliness. It's not just the discomfort of having to social distance. I truly, truly believe the universe is giving this to us so that it teaches us a lesson. Sit with our silence. Sit in the stillness. Don't run from the discomfort, because within that is the seed for the connection to something really bigger and greater. Hey, we didn't really appreciate the toilet paper until we were threatened about it, right? It's the same thing with this. We're being threatened with something because we need to appreciate connection. We're having to deal with loneliness and the discomfort of being alone for some of us because we are supposed to be grateful for connection, the connection for ourselves, with others, and with spirit. So, hi, Monica. Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, John. So many of us can relate to this. And it's that we get so caught up in the feelings in our body, for a long time around the time span that I wrote that. And I'm grateful for that time in my life because as painful as it was my greatest teacher, Do I want to relive it? No, but I know if I ever have to relive it, I'll be fine. But during that time in my life, my weight went down to almost 115 pounds, which for me is extremely thin, really sickly. I used to drink milkshakes every day just trying to put on weight. Literally the loneliness was eating me alive. It was that bad. I had lost my parents in quick succession, other people. And it was like I was plunged into this discomfort that was really acute. But within it, there was such gifts, you know. And when I finally was able to turn my loneliness to solitude, um, that gratitude for that is the best feeling in the world because it's freedom. We no longer are afraid to be alone. We no longer sit in abuse. We no longer allow people to misuse us, to speak to us badly. You know, I'm not that woman anymore. You know, I can't live with that because I'm no longer threatened. My ego no longer threatens me with the idea of being alone. And I think that this pandemic and a lot of the seclusion that we've had to face and being having to sit in stillness has been a really big lesson for a lot of people. I also would not be surprised if the lesson deepens a little bit before we get it, because I think there are a lot of people still that aren't getting it. So definitely make space for the loneliness. And remember that loneliness is not the absence of people. Loneliness is the absence of connection. And that even if we're in a room by ourselves, we have things we can connect with, our own heart, you know, memories, right? When I go into a meditation, oftentimes, if I want to have a joyous meditation, I'll go back and remember something that brought joy to my heart and connect with that. There are so many things in this world that we can connect with. It doesn't have to be the other. That's just one part of our connections, although very, very important, and we all need each other, that interdependence. It's still very necessary for us to have it with ourselves first. So if we spend most of our life running away from ourselves or distracting ourselves, whether that distraction is running to the grocery store or having coffee with the neighbor for 2 hours or, you know, seeing our grandchildren every day, make sure it's heartfelt and you're present when we get to do those things again, and that you're not just using it in order to push loneliness away, push disconnection away. Go into connection and feel that really fully present. Um, and also remember when you have anxiety and you're in this loneliness, remember that it's temporary. We have control over everything in our life through spirit. And oftentimes people will come to me for relationship readings and they'll say, well, when is he coming back? Or when am I meeting my true love? Or blah, blah, blah. And I always say, well, you have control over that because it's free will versus fate. You know, if there's something that was blocking that love from coming in, and you work on that, then you no longer have the block. If you have something underlying your loneliness, something underlying your discomfort that you're not working through, then it's always going to be there. You can run and hide. You can drink yourself silly. You can go out dancing every night. You can jog. You can ride your bike. You can do whatever you want to do. But when you stop, the loneliness is still going to be there unless you make space for it and really look at it. So there's a lot of illumination in our discomfort. I know this is not a comfortable thing. I know a lot of us are really being saddled with layers of discomfort right now, but those are lessons. Those are definitely lessons. What we call people that, or what we call when we all do it, what we call it when we go into distraction and we try and find something to do. And I'm not talking about healthy distractions where, you know, you're having negative thoughts. So let me go out in the garden for a little bit. That's a healthy distraction. I'm talking about when we keep trying to mask feelings that are chronic in us. And the minute we have a little discomfort, the minute we have a slight heartbreak, we want to run away from it. Sit with that heartbreak. You need to feel grief in order to work through it, or it'll always be there. But what we call it when we go into distraction to stop chronic heartache or chronic feeling is we call that spiritual bypass. Because what we're really doing is we're bypassing the spiritual part of things. We're trying to act like, oh, if I go out and listen to music, if I go out dancing, if I go drinking, if I go jogging for 6 hours, if I go to the gym every day, then I won't feel these feelings. That's just a spiritual bypass. We have to sit with the feelings and we have to feel the spirit of it. We have to go into our own spirits. So I'm going to read some comments now. So the full moon was very even and calm because it was Libran, and the Libran energy was also trining Chiron, which is the wounded healer. So there was a lot of healing energy with the full moon this week in Libra. And Libra also came in to give us balance and calm. So the full moon really wanted to give us a little shot in the arm, a little medicine in order for us to be able to be in this prolonged I will not use the word quarantine, prolonged sequestering. All right. Um, so I'm just going to read more of my notes. So turn inward, acknowledge the divine, whatever that is for you. The divine is the connection that binds. So acknowledge that. Acknowledge angels. Acknowledge, even if you're a sun worshiper, if you love, I know a lot of the beaches are closed, but if you love the sky and the water, and just go somewhere where you can see it, and really look at that, and connect with that, and you're going to feel the loneliness lift a little bit. And what I will tell you is that there are angels all around us, all around us. So you can't bypass loneliness. You can't. There's no bridge that goes over it. There's no tunnel that goes under it. You have to just work at it. So when I started the broadcast, I was talking about like really look at your reality and be present in your reality. Look at what external things are your triggers, because sometimes we have triggers, and when we really are fully present and we are there, those triggers don't really exist. We're perceiving them. So really look at what is the trigger. A lot of us who've been by ourselves or with limited interaction with family, we've been in this now for 3-4 weeks. So, if the loneliness is getting more and more acute, look at what the trigger is and what is really making that happen. Because one of the things that I know for a fact is some of the feelings that we have are not really loneliness. They're really attached to our bodily experiences. Like the minute we start to feel the uts in the stomach or the heart kind of panging, we have to do something so we don't feel it. Well, try and sit with that for a minute. Nothing bad's going to happen. It's really going to be actually good for you. So don't have that physical fear when the sensations come up. Just observe them and say, okay, I'm having some anxiety. The world's having a global pandemic. This is normal. Let me just let this flow for a minute. Okay. Don't have to explain them away. And if you're with someone in confined quarters who does not validate your feelings, who always has to squash their own feelings, won't acknowledge when they're afraid or they're nervous or they're having anxiety, don't spend all your time with that person. You need a time out from them, because they'll start to make you question your own feelings, which you have 100% validity to have. We're in unprecedented times. This is unthinkable right now. It's normal for everybody to be stressed out, but the way to get through that is to be fully present in those feelings. Breathe through them, just like I did with the toothbrush. Have courage and just let them flow over you, and really think about where they're coming from. Do they have a basis in reality? Are they real? Is my physical reaction real? Or is it just my ego telling me to feel a certain way so that it will control me? So the reality of being alone, weigh that with the fear. What's the key issue here? Focus on those feelings. Focus on the feeling of connection. Focus on the feeling when you breathe into it. And then as you're feeling it and you're feeling these feelings, very quietly and very simply, when you connect with yourself and you feel yourself present with yourself, just ask yourself, what does it need from me? What is my ego asking from me? Even if it's not even loneliness, even if you're having an anger issue or you're having a frustrating issue or you're just nervous, sit with it for a minute and say, what does this need from me? Why am I feeling threatened enough right now to have these emotions? What does it need from me? Hi, Danielle. Hi, Govs. Do you ever feel the spirit of dogs who have passed? Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, it's funny because that actually relates to our topic tonight. I have a dog, Sam. He was a Samoyed that I had when I was much younger, in my 20s. And Sam is always with me. He's a big, white, fluffy dog. He's always with me. As a matter of fact, my current dog, Sparky, when I first brought Sparky home with me, even though Sam never lived in this house, there was an area in my dining room where I always felt Sam. And when Sparky was a puppy, he immediately always laid there, and he would look around like this a lot. So I know the spirit of Sam is with me. I've also had people tell me that after their dogs leave, that they have dreamt of their dogs. And one person even told me they saw their dog with little angel wings. So that was very comforting for me, because I really am a dog lover. So I don't know if anybody else has anything that they wanted to talk about or comment anywhere on the website. Um, oh, thank you. It's hard to be real sometimes because you don't know what you want to put out there, But I always say thank you for that because I needed to hear that actually. I always say if like one thing, if anything I say helps one person, then I'm supposed to say it, because when I always use the expression, there's an army of angels that saved my life. And those angels are up here, but there's also an army of angels in the world, in real life, that saved my life. I mean, everything that and it's all going to be in the book, which I'm slowly writing. But there were so many people for me that when I was really going through my spiritual awakening, which lasted years upon years and I'm still in, um, helped me in so many different ways. And so I always said my breakout is if I can just reach back and take one person with me where everyone helped me be, then my life is complete. Um, so neutralize the ego. That's really what we're trying to do here. And when we do nothing but breathe, like that moment I had with the toothbrush where I just like made myself feel that loss and breathed into it, that's what's called neutralizing the ego. It's almost like I'm in real estate, and when builders or flippers go into a house and they want to get it ready for sale, they do what they call neutralizing it. They make everything beige or white, now gray, and they make everything look neutral. That's what you want to do with your ego. The ego has too much control over us. It makes us angry for no reason that's not in our reality. It makes us lonely for a reason that's not in our reality. All those things. So what you want to do is really neutralize the ego so that it's not controlling you, that reality is controlling you, and your spirit and your perception, your connection with Christ, Jesus, Buddha, Kuan Yin, Creator, is the thing that's controlling you. So when you do that and you're in that breath work and you're really breathing into this grief or this loneliness, then ask yourself, you're going to ask yourself, what does this need from me? What does it require from me? Like I realized my loneliness required me to be in stillness and connection. My loneliness required me to overcome it by being okay with being with myself. And that was a huge thing for me. For a long time and many years, I couldn't like even just sit in a chair without like there being the stereo or TV or something on. I couldn't deal with that. So for me now, I spend hours and hours in silence. I lead almost a monastic life when I don't have company here or someone's not here. So that was huge for me. And I know what the struggle is like. But when you ask yourself, what does it need? That is going to be a different answer for all of us. All of us. Some people, it might be as simple as you need to take a walk in the woods more, But ask yourself, what does it need from me? What is it asking of me? And then after you do that, we're going really deep into this loneliness. After you do that, ask yourself where it came from. And do this with all your feelings because the ego controls us by emotion. And emotions are real. They're important. We have to let them flow. We can't suppress emotion. We can't act out with emotion. When we act out emotion, getting hysterical, screaming, ranting, and raving, that's just another weak way we have of distracting ourselves. When we sit with our emotion and feel the discomfort without trying to push it off on someone else, that's really when we become warriors. So ask where it came from. Ask, where did this belief that I have that I shouldn't be alone, that if I'm going to be alone, I should be afraid, where did that belief come from? Did it come from something in my childhood? Is it something I brought in from another life? Why is this loneliness so acute that it's almost, smothering to me, or it's really making me go into distractions that are unhealthy? Why? Where was the belief originated from that made me think simply being alone, nothing here is really threatening to me? What happened that made that so important that I fear it so much in my life? Where did that belief come from? Because as soon as you disseminate that, it doesn't have a hold of you anymore. I can tell you that my belief of being alone and fearing that started very, very early in life when I was 5. When I started school, my mother started full-time work. And the separation anxiety, I can still feel it to this day, threw me as a child into complete and total spasms of anxiety. So that's where my belief that when you're left or someone drives away in the car or someone leaves you, that's where my belief came. This is not a good thing. I'm not supposed to be by myself, and other things, a series of events that occurred in my life. My father abandoned me when I was 13, came back in my life later. But those feelings, those physical sensations of watching someone at a very young age leave you became the basis of my fear of loneliness. And I guarantee you there's things in your life where it comes from. Someone along the line ingrained in you that being by yourself was something to fear, that being by yourself without your family was going to cause you great discomfort, that someone told you that being without that spouse that you've lived with forever was the worst thing that could happen to you. That's the belief that the ego has. And the real reality of it is we're living every day in the situations, we're surviving them. Are they hard sometimes? Yeah, but we're surviving. And I think that's one of the lessons that we're seeing in the collective, in the world right now. So look for those meanings. Look for the reality, that you're okay. Sometimes there's traumas that happen to us in life, and they give us sensation, and we carry those sensations forever. But like when I was going through that, time frame with the toothbrush and all that, that time of my life, one of the things I sat down and asked myself was, well, how long is a memory from when you were 5 years old going to control your life? How long is your father, who did an egregious thing but understood that, and we all make mistakes in our life, how long is that going to run your life, right? So whatever happened to you as a child, in your past life, whatever, you're meant in this lifetime to overcome it and triumph over that. And once you do, send the energy of that amazing triumph to everyone still locked in the battle, because that's how we all interdepend and really help each other. And that's what my broadcasts are all about. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. And if anybody has a story they want to comment on or share or whatever, I know we don't have a big audience today. Oh, Danielle, I'm so glad. I think a lot of us can actually relate to this. I just don't think a lot of us like to talk about it. I think that a lot of us are still running and distracting and playing games with ourselves. And I think that the gift of COVID-19, I hate to say, because I know it's been a tragedy for many, and it's a tragedy for all of us in some way, the gift of it is the stillness. The gift of it is having this inordinate amount of time to sit home and sit with ourselves and emerge with a better life, a better relationship with ourselves, a better relationship with Creator, and in turn, a better relationship with everyone in the world. If each one of us can do that, we are going to have such a high vibration of love in the world. There's going to be like no stopping. So that's the deal. And thanks, Sally. So that's the deal. And I guess in closing, the only thing I can say is I can't read my own writing sometimes. Seek others who practice presence, and seek others who have a connection to the divine in some way. Even if that connection is, you walk with them in the park. Seek others who are present in reality and elevating their lives. Don't spend so much time with the people who invalidate you, tell you your emotions aren't good, blame you for feeling a certain way. Those are the restrictions and the negativity that's going to put you further into loneliness and make you feel further disconnected. Because as they judge you, you will have judgment for yourself, and then you won't connect to anything. You won't connect to yourself. You can't connect to yourself if you're judging yourself. We are all miraculous, beautiful creatures of God. And we should not be judging anyone right now, especially ourselves. So while we're all in these confined quarters, let's really cut ourselves some slack and be compassionate and give ourselves the compassion we need to work through some of our loneliness and our discomfort. And I really love you all. And I think that's just about the broadcast tonight. If I can answer any other questions for you guys, you can find me on Facebook on Zenkuda. You can find me on Facebook on Zenkuda. You can find me on Instagram on Zenkuda Official. And I have a YouTube channel. There's going to be more videos on YouTube that are not, on my Facebook. So please subscribe to that channel. And if you would like a private reading or healing session, I do astrology readings. And also I am a psychic medium. So if you want a private session via FaceTime, I can definitely accompany you with that. So just go on my site, zenkuda.com, under services, and you can find everything that I offer. And I just want to thank Sally and Tony because I drove them crazy trying to figure out how to do all of this. And they were really, really patient with me. And I just love them for that. Danielle. Right. I think we all need to pause. That's, when they started to call it New York on pause, I love that because I felt like this is what everyone needs. I don't know about you guys, but there's a lot of people I know in my life that could really do with a timeout. They may not be observing it so good, but I think they could do with a timeout because um, it's really hard. Marianne, I know it's hard, and I know that you've been dealing with some grief over this past year, and it is really hard. But what I can tell you is that the longer we avoid it, the harder it gets, because this is my belief with the universe. And this is why I hope everybody gets it and like stays home and does what we're told to do and all that. The universe comes in, they want you to look at something, right? When I say they, it's whatever your belief is. And so they're going to make you uncomfortable, so you become aware. And like they'll slap you. Georgia, we want you to look at this because you've got to work on this. It's not good. And I ignore it. I go out and have a drink, or I go dancing, or I go out on a Harley, or whatever I do. I'm not even going to worry about that. Next time they don't slap me, next time the universe comes and knocks me off my chair, I'm really uncomfortable because I still haven't listened. And if you don't listen after that, you're going to get flattened. Something in your life is going to fall apart. Not to punish you, to get your attention. Because if everything was easy, we wouldn't pay any attention to it. The church is full of people in distress, in detriment. No one goes to church when everything's great. That's the way it works. So the universe is much more wise and loving than we know. And it packs lessons in discomfort. It packs lessons in pain. There's only two ways we learn as human beings. And that's through pain or through wisdom. Hopefully once we reach a certain amount in our life, like I hope I'm there now, I'm learning through wisdom. I know enough to pay attention to sensation, to pay attention and be present in my sensation. Where is this coming from? What does this require of me? What do I need to fix? Where's the crack in the driveway I need to fill now? But for a lot of people who keep avoiding and finding a way around, out, through, above, below it, then that crack's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The universe is going to keep putting you in detriment until you have to look at what's happening. And that's the way it goes. I've never found anyone who got away with it. It might seem like it, but they're just going to carry it off to another life. So definitely take advantage of this time. Do some soul work. Do the things that you've always wanted to do. Stay productive. And for those of you out there, I am going to send you the triumph I have over my own loneliness in life. And sometimes I still get lonely. And, we all do. We need human connection. It's never, we never can be without each other. But hopefully, whatever we've triumphed over in our lives, when we send that energy out to the world, then we all get better and we all heal each other. I just want to take a moment to send love out to everyone out there tonight who is touched by the disease of COVID-19. For all of you who've lost people or have people ill, I just send love every morning. I have a Reiki grid and I send everyone love every morning that way. So please, if all of you could just join me and send some love out into the world, I really believe if we raise our vibration, everything's going to be great. So thank you so much for tuning in. I do a Facebook Live on Zenkuda Tuesdays at 7 o'clock. And then I have Gov's comedy station, my podcast, The Soul Space, every Thursday at 6:30. So now that I've mastered these live feeds, hopefully I'll have a guest next Thursday, but I'll be in touch. And thank you so much. This is the energy I source my life from, so you all mean the world to me. Thank you so much for your support. If you like this video, please share it. Thanks. Bye-bye.